I will now call to order the meeting of the Potter Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation for Wednesday, January 29th. Rosie, if you could please give us a roll call.
Yes, Director Cox? Yes. Director Frail? Here. Director Gallagher?
Here.
Director Pentel?
Here.
And Attorney?
Here. We have nothing to report out of tonight's closed session. And now I'll ask if there are any agenda modifications for consideration from staff for tonight. No, there are not. Okay. We'll now move on to the public comment portion of this meeting for matters not on tonight's agenda. Rosie, are there any raised hands online?
Online.
Okay, no one online. Anyone wishing to speak with us here today? But seeing none, I'm going to close down that public comment, and I'm going to open up to comments from board members. Any comments from board members?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to comment to our members here who might be watching. Obviously, we all know there was a terrible fire in Moss Landing, what I call the twin stack power plant, a battery fire. While it was in another county, the smoke didn't come this way and all that fun stuff. But what I really want to speak to is, as most people might know, there's other sites that were identified for battery plants in Santa Cruz County, 4 other sites, future sites, potential sites that may or may not ever happen. But there is one site that is being considered more closely in Watsonville on Minto Road near Pinto Lake. That site, I just want to share, is in the early concept phases and years away from anything happening. There's zoning, planning, there's a lot of approval process it has to go through. So that's something that is at the beginnings of an idea, not coming anytime soon. So I just wanted to share that information. There's obviously a lot of people very concerned about having the same thing happen in Santa Cruz County, and let alone in our district and in the city of Watsonville. And I just want to share that's a project that's still in concept and is a long way from happening, and still has to go through a lot of things, including coastal commission. So I just want to provide an update.
Cool. Thank you. Any other comments? I have a few, but want to give a chance. No? Just a couple of comments from me. I'll try to be short here because I know we have 2 long meetings. So just want to acknowledge everything that's been happening since January 20th and the really difficult impacts that's had on our community. Folks here in this room, I'm sure know someone or are, a family member of someone who's been impacted in some form or some way by, whether that be by fear, by confusion, or by actual loss of income, or in any other sort of way. And in our role as a healthcare provider for the Potter Valley region and the greater Santa Cruz County and Central Coast, it's our role to step up in these sort of moments and to assure our residents that we're here for them, and to be able to assure them that if they will step through our doors here, whether it be through the emergency room or the main lobby or however, that we're here to give them exceptional care. And it does not matter their documentation status or how they identify. And I want to ensure the community that that's going to happen no matter what happens going forward. I do also want to acknowledge and thank the work of Steve Gray, our CEO, and his team in preparing our staff for any sort of immigration related action, and also for just ensuring that our staff feels comfortable and well equipped for anything that might come their way regarding immigration enforcement, or any other sort of decrees that came down from the current presidential administration. And so just want to thank everyone for their work on this. I know there's been a lot of great work happening in the background, and really thoughtful and insightful and hopefully productive conversations happening as well around this stuff too. And so just want to reassure our community that we do know, and we're not operating in a vacuum here as a hospital and as a healthcare provider, that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that people can come into our hospital, get the care they need, and be comfortable and not be persecuted for who they are or their documentation status. So with that, we're going to, if there's no more comments from our board members, I'm going to go ahead and close down the comments from our board members, and we'll go into our consent agenda. We have, I believe, 4 items today. We have 4 items today. Rosie, if you could read them off.
First item is the minutes approval from December 18th, 2024. The second item is the policies and policy summary approval from January 2025. The third item is the Watsonville Community Hospital receiving children experiencing a mental health crisis and providing evaluation space. And the fourth item is a contract renewal for commercial energy natural gas.
Any questions about any of these items before we open up to public comment? Okay, seeing none. I don't see any attendees online, so I'll open up to public comment for people in person. Seeing none, I'll bring it back and I will entertain a motion for items 1 through 4 on the consent agenda.
I'll motion approval, just a comment of thanking, this board and staff and all the hospital employees who are working on item number 3 regarding the children who are experiencing a mental health crisis. I know it's a challenging issue, and it's a challenging thing to try to solve. I just appreciate all the work being done for that.
We got a second.
Thank you. Directors Pinto and Gallagher, I'll roll for this item. Director Pop? Director Creel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Pinto?
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to our first discussion item of the night. It's item number 5. It's the Medical Executive Committee report for January 2025. We got this report in closed session, and I will have to open up to public comment after any questions from board members on this. Okay, seeing none, open up to public comment. No attendees online. Anybody in person? Seeing no raised hands, I will now close down the public comment and entertain a motion for item number 5. So move approval.
Gallagher, please roll on this item. Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Cox? Director Creel?
Yes.
Director Pinto?
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. Okay, so now we're moving on to item number 6, and that's the CEO report. Steve, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. I got a few slides to walk us through. Thank you, Rosie.
One moment.
Yeah, let me know when it's shared and ready.
Almost there. Okay, do it, Brad.
Good. There we go. Okay. Harken back to our strategic priorities because we are reporting on the year end for 2024, and I'll also be weaving in the next year's 2025 goals into that conversation, so we can talk about the successes we've had in 24 and what we're shooting for and striving for and measuring in 2025, as well as some of the strategic priorities that we're focusing on. So with our strategic priorities in mind, just a reminder on the color coding legend for the dashboard. Green is at target for the year and blue is best practice. So for quality and patient experience, we entered green on both metrics, which is really tremendous that we hit above the 65th percentile nationally for the overall rating of the hospital, with 75.4% of our inpatients giving us a 9 or a 10 on a scale from 0 to 10. And we were successful because I think we only had 1 hospital acquired condition in the last 3 months. We were able to exceed our target of reducing hospital acquired conditions by more than 50% from 23 to 24. So we went from 32 in 23 to just 15 in 24. And in 25, you'll see that we're just gonna keep trying to keep getting that lower. Before that, here's just a trend graph for our overall hospital rating for our patient experience scores. So where we started at 66.5% in the beginning of the year, we ended at 75%. So almost a full 9 or 10 percentage point increase. Did start to flatten out in the last quarter. So we'll continue to work on that with our teams to make sure that we can keep some upward trajectory going, but really awesome improvement of 2 or 3 percentage point improvement in these scores with this level of sample size is a statistically significant change. So 9 percentage points is really, really big. So for 25, we're gonna switch our HCAHPS question from overall rating to the likelihood to recommend, because that's something that we feel and the board has felt is important, that word of mouth is a really powerful tool for having more patients stay here and get their care here with us. So we'll be looking at that likelihood to recommend the hospital question. How likely are you to recommend this hospital to friends and family is how the question is worded. And we're adding to the safety of our patients. So we'll continue to look at hospital-acquired conditions, but we're going to add employee and provider injuries. So we'll have baseline data from 24, and we'll try to reduce those numbers in 25, as well as the patient safety metrics to try to improve both of those together. Back to 24 performance. So we did end up red just barely on these two metrics, patients, number of patients served, and percentage of patients who were transferred from our emergency department to another facility. So I'll start with the one at the top first. You can see we were at 56,243 patients served in our outpatient areas compared to 56,455 through the same period in 23. That's a very, very small percentage, right? Less than 0.5% of a miss. Part of that was December. We had some slowdowns with our cyber incident. So with some changes there in December, very likely would have hit baseline, but still would have ended up below our target goal for the year, which was we had budgeted a decent growth, and we didn't see that. So we were going to continue to look at that for 25. On the transfers from our hospital to another facility, we missed baseline by 0.06%. And a big part of that was that pediatric site program that Marcus, you talked about a minute ago. So we had 71 patients who came from North County who normally would have gone to another facility, but came here instead because we have this program for the kids with the county. And 41 of those ended up getting transferred to another facility. So if we took those 41 out, which wouldn't have happened with this program, it would have been at 2.44% overall, which would have been a little bit of a decrease from last year. It would have been right in between our last year, our 23 number, and our full performance target. So I just wanted to point that out. Some of the data below shows the number of patients coming from the different parts of the county through our pediatric program. For 25, we'll continue to look at patients served, but we're going to look at all our patients served. So this dashboard quadrant will essentially count all the patients that we're serving in 25, with the top number being those coming in as outpatients, either through the emergency department or to our other ancillary services, and the bottom being the admissions. So we'll look at both the inpatient admissions as well as the observation admissions. So we'll be tracking all of our patients coming in through to the hospital. In our talent and culture metric, we looked at staff retention. This metric was all staff, so it was including full-time, part-time, and per diems, and we had a 79% retention rate, which was up 3 percentage points from 2023 when we were at 76%. We looked at this a few months ago, and that was above better than national averages, and sort of starting to creep into national top quartile. And we did our first employee engagement survey in March, and we will do another one coming up starting at the end of February. We'll have results probably back in April or May, like we did last year, and we will hopefully be able to do a pulse survey or two specifically on the safety climate. So that'll be what we're looking at in 25, is how are we improving on the safety climate dimension of that score survey. And at the top of this for 2025, we will continue to look at staff retention, but we're just going to look at the full-time and part-time. In 2024, we ended up at 84% on our full-time and part-time staff retention, which is actually already at the 75th percentile nationally. So we're going to try to maintain that and try to improve on it in 25. And then for financial sustainability, we did end up significantly better than our budget, which was our baseline goal. And I'll let Julie get to that and all the details of that when she does her finance report. And we'll continue to look at the overall hospital and district, but we'll look at EBITDA instead of net operating income because really EBITDA is a better measure of our cash flow. And that's really what's key right now is the cash coming in, the cash going out, what do we have available to invest in our services. In addition to the dashboard, we have some strategic areas of focus for 2025 ahead of us. So 4 key service lines that we've talked with the Hospital Foundation about fundraising for and really focusing on over the next couple of years. And those are our women's and children's services, our emergency services, how we diagnose and treat cancer, and how we help people with heart conditions. And so those are our 4 areas that we're really focusing on for improving what kinds of services and expanding what kinds of access we have for our patients and our community members who live here. And then the darker blue circle around the outside is kind of the how, right? So we need to continue to focus on financial sustainability. We have a number of infrastructure improvements that we're able to do through Measure N that will be coming forward even this year. Whether we can continue to strengthen and maybe add more strategic partnerships like we have with Kaiser, like we have with Stanford and pediatrics, things like that. Provider engagement, which also includes provider recruitment. We need more doctors to be able to do some of these things. And advocacy. So that's going to be hugely important this year. Tony, you talked about the importance of coming together and partnering with our local community organizations to take care of our community in these uncertain times. So how we hold space in the advocacy world is going to be really important in 25 and beyond for us. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and hand in my homework. So 2 months ago, the board asked me to talk with each of the board members individually to ask about their feedback and thoughts on the employee engagement work that we would like to do. And so these are some of the not direct but paraphrased quotes from the board members that I spoke to, which was everybody. So it's important for staff to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Should have representation at all levels. Should not be a place for HR grievances, but rather for discussing what we want out of our hospital and engaging people. One comment was board members shouldn't be leading these, but can participate if they want. Employee engagement should be the role of staff and leadership. Let's just get it going. Important to make adjustments so that it can meet and be effective. Let's make sure that we have clear outcomes and goals. And this has an opportunity to build trust and have the board as a sounding board to help everybody feel heard. And so my recommendation out of that is we will, and I'll work with Rosie, we'll solicit more staff volunteers for the committee to, which will include alternates. So that's something that's new in the bylaws that the board approved, was the ability for us to have alternates on the employee engagement committee and other committees so that we can have a better chance of meeting quorum so that we can actually have our meeting. We'll ensure clear goals when we start getting back together and objectives from the outset with those members, and get that next first meeting scheduled as soon as possible and get to work. I think this is finally wanted to talk a little bit about how we're responding to some of those changes at the federal level. So we have added, thanks to great work by Nancy, our communications director, a very nice web page on our website entitled Community Resources, which has all of the latest information on housing, immigration, legal services, things like that, links to our community partners that have that information. We are finalizing and we'll be posting on all our welcome and a Know Your Rights poster in all of our public areas. We've just started to add signage indicating what areas are private versus what areas are public. We are continuing to work closely with the Pajaro Valley Collaborative, which is really all of the nonprofits here locally in the Pajaro Valley and the great work that they're doing. So we're staying up to date and all having a unified message. We are identifying resources for staff training. We'll be doing a lot of that actually in conjunction and partnership with Salud and with the Community Action Board on training leaders and training staff on what to do should somebody show up and ask about immigration. And we're reviewing our policies. We also have opportunities to write some op-eds in some of the local news publications, and that will give us an opportunity for further advocacy, both on immigration, but also on anything else that comes up in the healthcare space or anything that impacts our community that we take care of here. So we'll be able to have a voice to educate and build trust in us and the work that we're doing. So I'm happy to take any questions from the board, and I know that Matco and Phyllis have updates from their view as well. Yeah.
My brief question is the statistics on transfers. It seems that the pediatric psych stuff skews and doesn't really need to, it distracts us from what we're really looking at, which is to make sure that ER and the rest of the hospital is able to admit patients.
Right.
If we could exclude it, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I think it's nice to show both, right?
Okay.
We didn't quite make it because we've added a program. We made it, if we took that program out, we got a little bit better than last year, but not quite as better as we wanted to. So
Sure.
yeah, as we keep showing data like that, we can break it out so that we sort of know where the sources are coming from. And I can bring another one back if it would be helpful. Dr. Claypool, who runs our Vituity emergency services, is breaking down the full year in 2024 of the reasons for transfer. So we look at that every year, and that helps us identify what specialists do we need more, what specialty coverage do we need better, which we know by Gestalt, but it's good to see the data and understand if we had another urologist, we could, reduce X number of transfers, that kind of thing.
Any other questions for Steve? All right, Matt?
Thank you. Just a couple of things to touch on. Wanted to provide an update. I mentioned this previously. The Coastal Healthcare Primary Care Office, Dr. Robigo, is now open, starting on January 2nd. That's a primary care site for the district as Coastal Health Partners. We have a new GI doctor that's joined us, Dr. Ali Mohammed, has joined us doing call. He did a week of call in January. It's been a great addition to our staff so far. And the hospitalist service, we've been working with Kaiser on putting together a program and completing our hospital service. We've historically had two groups doing hospital service. Initially, it was Kaiser and PAM, and then it transitioned to BDP and then USACS. Right now, we're working all through Kaiser, and we're hopeful that we can come to an agreement where Kaiser takes on the entire program. But I want to thank them for their support during this time, really stepping up. So appreciate that. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for Matt about any of this? All right.
Thank you.
A couple of operational updates. I believe all of you will remember maybe last month, Michael Hame provided the quality oversight report. He's been serving as the interim quality director. We are naming him this week as the, I don't know if he's permanent, but that quality director. We really appreciate his leadership and stepping up as Tracy had left. And so we will be sourcing an IP director. As you might recall, Michael was the IP director prior to stepping into that role. He's been doing both through the rest of the year 2024. So super happy to announce that, and a formal announcement will be out as soon as I finish writing it. Secondarily, you may see or hear about, we have posted a few positions. We have a manager for women's and children's services to help out Kim on the second floor. We're super excited about that. Women's and children's services, as Steve identified, as a priority opportunity for us this year. And so we will be opening some peds beds on the second floor. So really looking for somebody to source to help us continue to expand the competencies and skills of the nurses on the unit, as well as hire new nurses. Also, we have a position posted for an ED educator. Our emergency department is extremely busy, seeing a good deal of patients every day. As you noted, a lot of transfers going out of there. It's really important that we keep those nurses' skill sets up and competency evaluations 24/7. So very excited about that. Nursing goals continue to mirror Steve's identified priorities for the year, including quality, patient experience, productivity, and also managing to grow our cardiac and develop our cardiac service line. So those are the things we're working on right now for 2025.
Fantastic. Any questions?
Do we have a projected opening date for Catholic?
Well, so yes, and sort of. So we are finishing our EPCI application. Our cath lab is licensed and certified to do non-interventional procedures. So we're actually meeting with cardiology to see how we can get that up and running in the next couple of months, doing interventional procedures, not elective interventional PCI. And so working with that and also looking towards our new radiology group that starts in March that would also be able to use the cath lab interventional space.
Interventional radio.
So trying to get those folks busy.
Very cool.
And then the EPCI piece will just be really dependent upon the state. There's one person in Northern California who does all of those licensures, and so we did have Senator Laird write us a support letter, so we're hoping that that helps, and that he can continue to help push and get us moved up on the list, but it will be dependent upon them.
All right, any questions on this? I think I have to open up the public comment, but any questions on? No. Okay, open up the public comment. Any raised hands online, Rosie?
No one online.
All right, anyone wish to speak on this in person? Seeing none, I close down the public comment. We can move on to item number 7, the financial officer fund, monthly financial performance update. Whenever you're ready, John.
Okay, well, we're gonna take you through December, kind of close out the year end, covering a little bit of everything that we normally cover. So we'll start with the month of December. The month of December, you know, we lost 217,000, but when I look at a couple of things that we needed to post in December, one being $250,000 accrual towards our cyber attack, and another one being a cost report take back that we had to pay back or have withdrawn from our accounts. And we really, you know, probably had a chance to finish the year on the positive side, and certainly the month of December on the positive side. You know, our net revenue was fairly strong. We did book an accrual for as much revenue that didn't post in December due to the cyber attack, but that we were able to capture in early January before we closed the books. You know, the labor supplies being up a little bit, not too much, but, you know, we did have some extra overtime related to the cyber attack and recovery. And, you know, we were also hit fairly hard with some supply needs that we had to do to cover during the attack. So, you know, overall, the month was pretty strong. If we go to the next slide. You know, as Steve mentioned, the good news is that we significantly beat our budget. We were on a budget to lose $6 million this year, and we lost just $825,000. And with the two items I just mentioned, you know, it really would have been $200,000 or $300,000 favorable without those items. On the net revenue side, you can see that we finished about 3.2 million favorable. I really, you know, attribute that mostly to the revenue cycle work that will always go on. Some of the revenue recognition, as we paid back, things like the Packard loan and been able to get some revenue relief there, and some of the incentives that we do with partners like the Alliance. We've had over $1 million worth of incentives that we earned in the past year. And also our QAP fees were higher than what we had originally anticipated when we set the 24 budget. You know, the only other really remarkable thing here is some of the movement between what's below the EBITDA line and above the EBITDA line as it relates to the insurance we pay, MPT on the property, and then once we purchase the property, we did start booking a rental revenue that goes between the district and the hospital, or the hospital to the district, and that moves up above the line. So that's some of the mismatch that you see between the rent line and the lease line below. But you can see the good news is, you know, almost $5.2 million favorability to budget, and a significant change from the end of 2023 where we lost $13 million. So I'm very proud of the team. That movement. Next slide. Wanted to give you a couple of key statistics, cover a little bit in the month to date and then show you some year-to-date things. You know, overall, I think what we saw in December, some of it probably related to the cyber attack and some of it just related to some of the lower, softer volumes we've seen this year. We had an average daily census of 31 in December, which was almost 5 patients less than last year, where we were at 35.6. Inpatient surgeries, you know, only 17 less surgeries, just shows us a high percentage, you know, 38% less. A number that you're going to see that in the year to date as well, just as we have done the work between properly identifying inpatient versus outpatient cases. And you can certainly see that we had almost an 11% increase in outpatient surgeries, but it's really only 4 more for the month of December. It shows up a lot more number wise in the year to date. And, you know, our outpatient volume, even with the attack, was still stronger than, you know, prior year by 345 procedures. Next slide. So on a year-to-date basis, I think, you know, the notable items were, you know, softer admissions. It's something we've reported on all year long, because from the time we did budget for 24 to the time we got into 24, we had really been working on medical necessity and proper identification of an inpatient case versus an observation case. So that shows in our difference to budget, and it was less admissions than the prior year. Average daily census, we finished the year at 32.6, so significantly different from where we were in 23 at 37. And I think even if you went back a few years, you know, that number was closer to 40. So our inpatient census is less. It is offset somewhat by the number of observation cases where those patients are still sitting on the unit and getting care by the same team. Deliveries, we were down 75 from the prior year. And here again, you can see kind of the shift between inpatient surgeries and outpatient surgeries. We did 187 less inpatient surgeries, but 243 more outpatient surgeries. And then I think the last thing I'd say here is between ER visits and non-ER outpatient visits, there was almost 4,700 more this year than last year. Next slide. Just a quick look at how net revenue compares against expense, the blue line being expense, or the blue bars being expense, the green line being the net revenue. You always want your green line to be above the blue bar, and you can see we had some months where we exceeded, some months where we didn't. We were pretty strong in September, as we knew, still stayed above in October, and, you know, probably got pretty close considering what we went through at the end of November and December. From an admissions standpoint, our admissions for the month of December are slightly lower than last year, but pretty much on par with where we've been most of the years. We had the month at 274 admissions. Next slide. So that equates to 8.8 admissions per day, so almost 9 admissions a day. On the observation case, December was a little less than the last few months. Then we had 65 observations, where previously we had been, you know, anywhere between 70 into 90, and even earlier in the year, topped 100 a couple of months. So a little less observations and roughly the same admissions. Next slide. I think I might have mentioned before, we had 68 deliveries in the month of December, pretty much on par with last December when we had 69. So length of stay, 3.5 for the month of December. So less than last year, we were at 3.9 in December. And I think, you know, a lot of that still touches on our better identification of who truly qualifies for inpatient care. So I think that gets us in in numerous statistics and overall financial. Okay, acuity, our acuity had been down the last, 4 or 5 months, about 4 months. So it did pop up a little bit in December to 1.45. So not as high as we were earlier, like this time last year, but creeping back up. We do have some initiatives for 25, just around our clinical documentation improvement, our querying of physicians around their documentation, just to ensure that we're capturing all the care that's being provided to patients and any comorbidities or complications, so that we can bill to the appropriateness of the care we're giving. Slide, outpatient days or visits per day, down in December, it was, slightly lower than what we had been seeing the last few months, really pretty close to where we were last December. Actually had more non-outpatient ER visits per day than last year. 97 outpatient visits, and our ERs were down a little bit at 83 per day. Total surgeries, so you mentioned before we had 43 for the month and 105 outpatient for the month of December and 17 robot assisted. So a little lighter than the last few months, but it's still pretty much in range. That equates to 4.8 per day as opposed to 5 or 5.2 the last couple of months. Slide. You gonna move? Now skip the slide. Now skip another slide. There you go. This is just showing kind of by specialty. It's really the same story every month. The majority of our surgeries fall between general surgeries, OBGYN, ortho, and urology. So not too much change there other than slightly fewer numbers than prior months. Next slide. So on the inpatient payer mix, we had 14.5% commercial, little better than November, a little less than what we see in kind of our peak times of the summer and early fall. The yellow is our Alliance Managed Medi-Cal at almost 44% and about 25% on the Medicare front. On the outpatient side, 24% commercial and 47% on the Alliance. So been fairly consistent all year long, little shifts here and there. I think overall, it feels like, we are starting to see a few more commercial patients and on average than we were seeing, but we do pick up a little bit of fluctuation month to month. That's it, so I can take some questions.
Questions for Julie before I open up? No. I just an observation and I guess a question is I'm given everything that happened December with the cyber attack. I mean, these are respectful numbers, I think, and so this is good to see. I think obviously it had a huge impact on the staff that was providing the care and had to work extra hours and all that sort of stuff, and so appreciate their work, but this is good to see. And then the question I have, Julie, is I know that from like the community-based organization side, we've already through the month of January seen a decline in people accessing services for all different types of reasons. Do we know if we've seen any sort of like substantial decline in people accessing emergency care or any of that sort of stuff, or is it too early to tell?
I haven't seen any January numbers other than our inpatient census, which started out very strong at the beginning of the year. It's lightened up a little bit, but we're running an average daily census of about 35, so higher than where we were in the winter months. I haven't seen what the emergency.
Pretty good.
ED,
For the,
ED volumes the last week and a half have been higher than usual. Good.
Board admits
Well,
last week.
not good, but you know what I mean. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Or, yeah, go ahead.
Have we gone to public comment? I just have comments.
No, no,
Okay.
we can go to public comment. There's no more questions. Okay, no hands raised online. Anyone wishing to speak on in person? Okay, no? Go ahead, Marcus.
I'll just do my general, but always sincere thank you to you and all the finance team that are pulling these numbers behind, extra especially with cyber attack and all the impact it had on us, and just thinking about all the manual work we were doing as a hospital. And now it's backlogged our billing and all the work that's gonna still remain, like cyber attack's over or recovered, but now there's a lot of backup work that still is being done. So I know it's not through yet, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the time during the fight. We had a good lengthy finance committee yesterday, invite all the members of the public, chime into our finance committee meetings. They're fun. I do just want to touch on, you mentioned at the finance committee meeting, the status of our distressed hospital loan. And that there's maybe some light opening up at the end of the tunnel, not quite hope yet, but that there's, the first step is being released, that we might be able to be eligible for a loan modification to extend our payment that's coming up in May, is that correct?
yes.
And then we're still waiting to get the final documents on that, but it's due Friday.
Yeah, we are working feverishly on the application for loan modification, which would delay payment for 12 months, and that's step one. If you get approved for that, then you can subsequently apply for either a second loan modification, maybe loan forgiveness. I think that's a little still up in the air. We're working off of a draft application that's due Friday, hearing that the official application is going to be released tomorrow. So we are praying that it's not too different from what we're working on. It's pretty similar to, we do quarterly reporting on this, and we report financial information, debt ratios, other quality utilization indicators, and write up a narrative, provide a 24-month forecast. So we're doing all those things for our normal quarterly reporting anyway, just do a little sooner. And so we're almost done with that.
Then I'll again acknowledging the incredible work. 2019 was not a good financial year for the hospital. 2022 wasn't a good financial year for the hospital. From those 4-year periods between 19 and 2022, we averaged between 27 million in loss, as high as 32 million in losses, $110 million lost over that 4-year period. We took over the hospital in 2022, at the end of 2022, and by 2023, we cut down our annual losses to 13 million. And this year we're down to 800,000. So there's been an incredible amount of work. You know, no layoffs, no decreasing services. Generally speaking, we're trying to expand services. And I don't know how we pulled this off already, but I recognize there's been some amazing work that's been done over the last 18 months to get us in this position across the whole board, every person in the hospital. So thank you to everybody here, thank you to everybody watching, and thank you to all of our staff who it's incredible to think about. Never been so happy to see the $800,000 loss.
Any other comments before we move on to item number 8? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Julie, for the report. We'll move on to item number 8. It's a resolution to approve a tentative agreement of a successor memorandum and understanding with the California Technical Employees Coalition. I see Gabby's online, but I'm sure other folks can also, please, yeah.
Requesting that the board approve the resolution to engage in this agreement and have the staff sign off on the full MOU for the Caltech employees. It's within the board authority. It's the details of the successor MOU memorandum of understanding are in the staff reports. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take those. The next steps would be for it to be approved, and then human resources would then implement the wage increases, the modifications to the healthcare plan, premium cost share, and this is for a 3-year agreement. And,
Any questions for Allison or anyone else on the human resources team? No? Seeing none, I'll open it up to public comment. No no hands raised online, anybody in person? Okay, seeing none, then I'll bring it back to the board and entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to approve.
I'll happily second.
You have directors, Keel and Pimentel. I'll take roll this item. Director Cox. Director Gallagher.
Yes.
Director Phil.
yes.
Director Pimentel.
Yes.
Director
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. So we're gonna move on to the final item on tonight's Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation agenda. It's item number 9. It's the organizational meeting and election of the 2025 the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation board officers. We have 4 items here. So number 1 is to pass the motion electing the chair of the hospital board. Number 2 is to pass the motion electing the vice chair of the hospital board. Number 3 is a motion electing the secretary of the hospital board. And number 4 is a motion electing the treasurer of the hospital board, with these newly elected officers to take office on January 30th, 2025. Effective tomorrow. So I'll just give a update. So we, I signed back up a little bit. Every year we, through the bylaws of the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation, elect new board officers. And just those 4 positions that I just read off: the hospital board chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer of the hospital board. And at our previous meeting, I appointed Director Pimentel and Director Gallagher. Sorry, Joe.
No.
Onto the ad hoc committee to lead the board in making a recommendation for these 4 positions. And so with that being said, I'll hand it over to Directors Pimentel and Gallagher for any recommendations of the 4 items, unless there's anything else that Steve, you'd like to add, or Rosie, you'd like to add as well too. We'll allow you to make your presentation. I would prefer if we go obviously each position on the board individually, and I believe, Noel, we have to do that, and that's customary. Yeah, and so Marcus and Joe, go ahead, take it away.
My understanding of what I think we did was collated people's interest and presented them back to the board without a recommendation from the nominating committee. Simply did the clerical part of it. So the names before expressed an interest in the positions, and then Tony, you and I submitted statements of interest in the chair position.
That's right, yeah.
I appreciate Dr. Gallagher, Director Gallagher, your leadership in this process, and putting all that, there's a lot of conversation and thought about it, but conditioning a really nice format in the supplemental attachment to the board package. So thank you for that. Just noting that we met several times to think about this process and put a lot of weight into it. So just appreciate working with you on it. It was very good. So thank you for your time.
Except but then also have to hand over to Rosie that she made a very simple structure look official. Thank you very much.
So I'll read the supplemental material that was added on to the to tonight's Healthcare District Hospital Corporation agenda, and I won't read off my email or Dr. Gallagher's, but I will read off the nominees, people who put themselves forward. So as Director Gallagher said, myself and Director Gallagher asked and showed interest in serving as board chair for the healthcare district. There was no nominee who.
Sorry, hospital corporation.
I'm sorry, that's right, for the hospital corporation. There was no nominee that came forward for the vice chair. There was 2 that came forward for the treasurer. That was Director Pimentel and Director Friel. And then for the secretary, it was Director Friel and Director Gabriel Cox. And so
So I'd like to get things rolling a little bit.
Sure, of course.
See how this rolls out. I'd like to nominate and motion that my Director Friel sit as our secretary for 2025, effective tomorrow.
Surprise. Second from,
Roll on that item for.
just really quick, Rosie, yeah. Noel, do we have to do a public comment for each item, or do we just open it to public comment after reading that out and then come back to a point or to?
So since you're going to take a motion on each officer position, right? Individually, I would take public comment on each one of them. And you may want to, so are you starting from the bottom on the list, secretary, treasurer, then vice chair, then chair?
That's the motion on the table, yeah.
Okay, you might want to leave vice chair for last since there's no nominee there. And it may change the slate after the other three have been elected.
Okay. Sounds great. So we'll go secretary, treasurer, chair, and the vice chair.
Mhm.
Okay. So before I know we have a motion on the floor. I do want to open up to public comment for secretary. Is there any public comment from folks online about the opening for secretary?
No hands online.
Anybody wishing to speak? Person? Okay, seeing no hands raised, I'll bring it back, and I know that we have a motion on the floor, so for a roll call unless there's any other comments.
You need a second.
We do have a second.
Oh, you have a second. Okay, sorry, didn't hear.
Okay, I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox?
Yeah.
Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
Director Siegel abstaining, and Chair Diggins.
Yes. Okay. I will now entertain a motion or take public comment first about the opening for treasurer. Keep in mind that two people have stepped forward, both Director Pimentel and Director Frielba, who is now secretary. So one person now by process elimination has showed their interest. So open up the public comment. I don't see any hands raised online. Anybody in person wishing to speak on this? No hands raised. I'll close down the public comment and I'll entertain a motion for this.
Move nomination of Director Pimentel for treasurer, the Health Hospital Corporation.
I second.
I will take roll on this item. Director Cox?
Yeah.
Director Friel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Pimentel abstaining, and Chair Diggins.
Yes. Okay, so now I will open up the public comment portion for the position of board chair. Is there any public comment for this items? Okay. Online, anyone wishing to speak, please?
Did we miss the public comment?
So there will be a public comment portion for items not on the agenda right after this item. We'll start up the healthcare district meeting and then it'll be open for public comment on items on the
Thank
agenda. Anyone wishing to speak on the appointment of the board chair for the healthcare district? No? Okay, then I'll close down the public comment section on that and open it up to a motion for the board chair.
I know no one can hear me, but I'd like to make a motion for Tony to continue as the chair of our hospital board. Sorry for my.
Do we have a second on that motion?
One second.
And Friel. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox?
Yeah.
Director Friel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
No offense, but no.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
And Chair Diggins abstaining.
Okay. So we have one last item, that's the nomination of the vice chair. Any public comment online for the nomination of the vice chair? Okay, seeing none, any public comment? People with us today? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for a motion for the vice chair.
I move to nominate myself for the vice chair position.
I was gonna do it anyways, but I'll second that. Yeah. I'll second that.
All right, Gallagher and. All right, Director Cox? Director Creel?
Yeah.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
Chairman Nunez?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Yes, look, thanks.
Okay, congratulations, everyone. And that'll bring the meeting of the Potter Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation to a close, and I will close that meeting.